Hi guys, welcome. We're going to talk about how the British start to annoy the colonists, and one of the reasons why this is important is because that we know that people did not just wake up one day and decide, hey, guess what? We're going to start a revolution. We're going to leave Britain. It was a very, very long series of events that happened, and many of which are actually written down in the Declaration of Independence, specific complaints about what the British did not do to meet the needs of the colonists. So this is just the very beginning, and we can see that one of the things that started to annoy the colonists was rooted in the British idea of mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is an economic approach. It's a belief that the British held very dear to themselves, and it's an entire way of viewing the world. Now, say, well, what do you mean? Well, it's because the British viewed the economic world as a collection of nations whose governments are competing for a finite, meaning limited, amount of wealth. And what that means is if another country or a competitor, if they're able to get some wealth, whether it's a possession, whether it's a colony, taking from another country, whatever the case may be, that means there's that much less wealth in the world for, in this case, Britain to get. So it's limited. There's a limited amount available for everybody. And so that means if your competitor wins, you lose. Now this, of course, creates a very highly competitive atmosphere. And colonies were extremely valuable for this goal. And it wasn't just the British that had colonies, obviously the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and others. And the reason why colonies were so important for two reasons. They supplied the mother country with natural resources, but they were also a market where the consumers would purchase the products created by the mother country, and that was a great economic benefit. Well, this idea of mercantilism leads to the idea of the Navigation Acts, and the Navigation Acts are what really infuriates the colonists. So Britain wanted to have control over all the economic activity of the colonists, and they did so by placing restrictions on trade. A couple things: only English or colonial ships could trade in the colonies, and if you wanted to have a foreign good, the foreign good, let's say rum, for example, in the Caribbean islands that are close to North America, they would have to be shipped all the way back to Britain, inspected, taxes paid on it, and then on a British ship, shipped all the way back again across the Atlantic Ocean back to the colonies. And of course, the English government would get duties or taxes on that, and it would really dramatically affect the price of goods in the colonies. Now, enforcing these laws were very difficult. Even nowadays, we have, with our satellites and radar and all that stuff, we have, difficulty stopping all the smuggling that comes in. So with the technology you're having at this point in time, we're talking about, 1700s, it was very, very difficult. Well, the British set up what they called vice admiralty courts. And the weird thing about, I guess the really terrible thing about these vice admiralty courts is that they infuriated the colonists because the courts operated without a jury. And as we know, that's really one of the most fundamental aspects of our society, is you have a right to trial by a jury. So that was a big, big thing. Here's just a little picture of what the Navigation Acts look like. You can see a little sort of cartoon there. You can take a look at that. Let's try and find a little different point of view there, a little way to look at it in pictures. So all this was going on in the colonies and everything, but there's other stuff in England that was playing out that would definitely affect the colonies. And so what we're going to take a look at here is that we had the Glorious Revolution going on. Now, the Glorious Revolution, real quick, King James II, hold of power was slipping, and the reason why, he had levied taxes, which means that he had put taxes on people without consent of Parliament. And King James II converted back to Catholicism. And if you remember Henry VIII, he's the one that left the Catholic Church because the Pope wouldn't give him an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, etc., etc., etc. A bloodless coup, or takeover, occurred, and it was called the Glorious Revolution. James II, replaced by daughter Mary and her husband William of Orange, which is Dutch, or what we refer to as the Netherlands, and they became the royal couple. Can you imagine being replaced by your own daughter? I mean, you'd be proud. Hey, look, my children have raised up so greatly. But if it's at your expense, any family member, geez, you're taking my job. Okay. Well, the importance of the Glorious Revolution is that it affirmed the supremacy of Protestantism and Parliament, because two of the things, as you can see, is that one, you need consent of Parliament, but also Protestantism, was deemed to be very strong because this was a response to James II converting back to Catholicism, him losing his power. Now, unfortunately for the colonies, this is where it ties into the colonies, William and Mary believed that England should exercise tighter control over the colonies. And the colonists were saying, well, wait a second, things are already pretty bad. You're already trying to control us as much as you can, and now you're going to control us even more? And that always leads eventually, well, long term, eventually to the Revolutionary War. But those are one of the few things that really sort of ticked off the colonists, for lack of a better word.